Well, here I am in Warsaw on day 2 of the Russian incursion into Ukraine. I found out this morning that Russian troops have begun invading the suburb Obolon where I was living 4 weeks ago. I don't know how successful they have been at overtaking places, but the pictures I've seen this morning are of places that are familiar to me from my time living in Kyiv. I'm so concerned for all the people I know there. I've spent most of the last 24 hours trying to connect with anybody I know in Ukraine and offering to help them in any way that I can. It's included my colleagues at the university, my Russian tutor, my landlord, anyone that I knew. I wanted to make sure that I connected with them and said that I would be happy to help them in any way that I can from here in Warsaw. I was asked by an American compatriot if I could share a bed, and not my bed, but share my apartment for a few days. And I said, of course I can. What's happening to the Ukrainians is astonishing and stunning. It's such a tragedy. It's my perspective. I should tell you that I am not a fan of Vladimir Putin's. I think he's a tyrant. I think he's a dictator. I think he's done horrible things to the Russian people and to peoples in areas all around him. So I have no objectivity where Vladimir Putin is concerned. Where Russians and Russian people are concerned, I look at them as an abused group who have been treated horribly by a dictator, a tyrant who cares nothing about their day-to-day lives and uses propaganda to keep them in a kind of mental prison in order to extend his leadership. I am happy to say that many younger Russians see through him, especially those that are educated, especially those that have been able to get a variety of media from around the world, and that oftentimes I think Putin is most afraid, at least one diplomat who's another Fulbright scholar with me here in Ukraine, now Poland, has said that Putin fears most democracy, because if the people of Russia actually understand how to oust him from power, they will. And I think that this may be the undoing of Putin. I hope that it is. I hate to see people being killed in order to end the tyrannical reign of a petty, small-minded person. And that's how I see Vladimir Putin. So if you're looking for pure objectivity where Putin's concerned, you won't get much from me. You will get a lot of very concerned statements about Ukraine and the people there from me. And I'll try to help you to understand more about Ukrainian identity, Ukrainian politics, which is the line of my research that I was undertaking while I was in Kyiv. So hopefully I can help you to understand some of that. I guess I ought to talk about the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. Volodymyr Zelensky is the leader, is the president that was elected 3 years ago now, but 2.5 years into his term as president. He came into politics in a most unusual way. He was a comedian who went on to star in a television series called Servant of the People. Servant of the People lasted for 3 years. The premise of the show was that a history teacher recorded a rant that went viral about how you just fix Ukrainian government by simply electing someone that's going to rid the country of corruption. And in this TV serial, that individual was elected president of Ukraine, and it went on to show how they tried to rid the country of corruption. In real life, after the series concluded, Zelensky became head of a political party known as Servant of the People. And he was able to defeat the incumbent president, Petro Poroshenko, in 2019. I should tell you, Poroshenko was probably seen as being more pro-West, with Zelensky being more of a question mark, and whether he would be under the guise of Russia or be more pro-Western. And probably of the two finalists, Zelensky was seen as being more amenable to working with the Russians than Poroshenko was, or Julia Tymoshenko, who was another contestant in that election. So ironically, the demonization of Volodymyr Zelensky has been going on in Russian media as a person who is supporting a fascist Nazification, militarization of Ukraine, when in fact he was probably the lesser of the anti-Russian forces in 2019. Zelensky is interesting for two reasons that perhaps you know or perhaps you don't know. One, when Putin is screaming about how Ukraine is becoming Nazified, Zelensky himself is Jewish. So you would kind of find it odd to see a government that is led by a Jewish man overseeing the renazification, if it was ever Nazified in the first place, of Ukraine. And I'm going to explain more about where the Nazi charge comes from in a future video. And I'm going to try to help you to understand why Putin's charges against Ukraine are so preposterous. They are. I can tell you that they are just as outrageous a lie as has ever been told by a world leader. And I'll try to deconstruct those in a future video. So Zelensky is Jewish. The second thing you ought to know about Volodymyr Zelensky is that he is a Russian speaker. He speaks Russian as his first language. My understanding is that his Ukrainian is somewhat flawed, although he speaks it fluently. And his first language in the home he grew up in was Russian. So when Vladimir Putin is talking about the genocide of Russian-speaking peoples, it is quite ironic that the president of Ukraine is a Russian speaker, a Russophone. And so take that for what it is. As I started thinking about Obolon and the troops marching into Obolon, it really became I became very conscious in looking at some of the pictures of Russian soldiers. That Russia conscripts soldiers. You have to serve in the military if you don't go to university. You're forced to go in at 18 and serve 2 years, similar to what happened in the Soviet Union. All males are conscripted into the army. And so these are young men, boys really, that are 2, 3 years older than my son Andrew. And they've been forced to go fight a tyrant's war. And they're going to die, many of them are. And it's very, very heart-wrenching to me to think about forcing these young men into a war situation, a war they don't want. I came across a story, I don't know how true it is, but I will tell it to you now because I think it may be more true than we understand in some of what may be a sign of the decay of the Putin regime in Russia. According to a media source that I read, a Russian soldier walked across the Ukrainian border yesterday, went to the border guards and said, "Please don't kill me." And he was received into Ukraine and gave up his guns and essentially defected to Ukraine. And I think that may be the most poignant story of where Russians may be at this point is, please don't kill me. Russians don't want this war. The Russian population does not want this war. Mothers don't want to see their sons coming home in body bags. Fathers don't want to see this. We don't want to see our children die in a war that is being fought for almost no reason other than a dictatorial leader's vanity. And there's many nuances to Russian politics and trying to understand the psyche which drives Russian leaders. But at the bottom line, this war is pushing thousands and thousands of innocents into situations that are untenable. And I do wonder whether there will be some defection from the Russian army over this. I wonder about parents who are watching their children coming home cut down at the very beginnings of their lives, protesting against a tyrannical regime and demanding change in Russia. Um, that's my best hope. I don't understand why young people have to die in a war to provide that. I don't understand why Ukrainians have to die in this war. I really have a very difficult time understanding why this war and this situation is necessary in any way, other than the incredible vanity of a single individual. And that's very concerning to me. I can explain to you some of the geopolitical forces, and I'll do this in a future video, of what may be driving Russia's concern about NATO and some events that have happened recently that may have pushed Putin further than was in the best interest of the Ukrainian people or the United States, the world. But the Ukrainians deserve better than this. The Russians deserve better than this. The world deserves better than this.